My name is Elena Hartwell, and I've sentenced men to life in prison with less emotion than I felt watching my sister humiliate me at her engagement party. The crystal ballroom at the Meridian Hotel sparkled like something out of a fairy tale. 200 guests mingled beneath cascading chandeliers, their laughter mixing with the soft notes of a live string quartet. Everyone looked expensive, the kind of expensive that comes from old money and older secrets. I stood near the champagne fountain, invisible in my simple black dress, watching Victoria hold court like the queen she'd always believed herself to be. At 28, she was still stunning, blonde hair that caught light like spun gold, a laugh that made men lean closer, and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. She hadn't seen me yet. I'd arrived fashionably late, slipping in through the side entrance to avoid the receiving line where she posed for photographs with her fiancé, Marcus Sterling. Yes, that Sterling family, tech billionaire, philanthropy darling, the kind of man whose name appeared on hospital wings and university buildings. Elena? I turned to find our mother approaching, her smile strained. Patricia Hartwell looked older than her 55 years, though she'd never admit it. She'd spent the last decade chasing youth through expensive creams and subtle procedures, trying to keep up with Victoria's ascending social status. You came, she said, though her tone suggested she wished I hadn't. Victoria invited me, technically true, though the text had read, engagement party Saturday, dress nice, don't embarrass me. Yes, well, Mother's eyes swept over my outfit with barely concealed disappointment. You could have called, I would have helped you find something more appropriate. Before I could respond, Victoria's voice rang out across the ballroom. Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention? The crowd turned toward the small stage where Victoria stood radiant in a designer gown that probably cost more than most people's cars. Marcus stood beside her, tall and distinguished, his arm wrapped protectively around her waist. Thank you all for being here tonight, Victoria began, her voice carrying easily across the room. Marcus and I are so grateful to celebrate this next chapter of our lives with the people who matter most to us. I noticed she didn't look in my direction. I know some of you are wondering how a small-town girl like me managed to catch someone like Marcus, she continued, earning appreciative laughter. The truth is, I've always believed in reaching for the stars. My family taught me that success comes to those who aren't afraid to dream big. Our father nodded approvingly from his table near the front. He'd been absent for most of our childhood, traveling for work, he claimed, but he never missed an opportunity to bask in Victoria's reflected glory. Speaking of family, Victoria's eyes finally found mine across the room. I want to acknowledge my older sister, Elena. She's here tonight, hiding in the back corner as usual. Heat rose in my cheeks as heads turned to locate me. I forced a smile and gave a small wave. Elena's always been the practical one, Victoria continued, her tone affectionate but condescending. While I was off chasing dreams, she stayed home and focused on, well, let's just say she's very good at paperwork. Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt my jaw tighten. She works for the county, clerical stuff, filing, you know how it is. Someone has to keep the bureaucrats organized. Victoria giggled, as if my career was a charming quirk. I keep telling her she should aim higher, but Elena's always been content with simple things. The laughter was louder now. I caught sight of Marcus's business associates exchanging amused glances. One woman whispered something to her companion behind her hand. Anyway, Victoria raised her champagne flute. Here's to family, even the ones who choose the safe path. The crowd cheered and drank. I remained perfectly still, my own glass untouched. After the toast, the party resumed its buzzing energy. I considered leaving. I'd made my appearance, fulfilled my sisterly duty, but something kept me rooted in place. Maybe it was the satisfied smirk on Victoria's face, or the way our parents had laughed along with her casual cruelty. Elena Hartwell? I turned to find a distinguished older woman approaching. She was perhaps 60, with silver hair and intelligent eyes behind designer glasses. Yes, Margaret Donnelly. She extended her hand. I thought that was you. I was in your courtroom last month for the Henderson case. My blood went cold. I glanced around quickly, but no one seemed to be paying attention to our conversation. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I think you have me confused with someone else. Margaret's eyebrows rose. Oh, I don't think so, Judge Hartwell. Superior Court? The Henderson embezzlement trial? You gave quite an impressive sentence, 15 years. If I recall correctly, the prosecution team was thrilled. Before I could respond, Marcus Sterling appeared beside us. Mrs. Donnelly, how wonderful to see you. He kissed her cheek warmly. I hope you're enjoying the party. Oh, Marcus, it's lovely. I was just speaking with Judge Hartwell here. I had no idea Victoria's sister was the Elena Hartwell. Marcus's smile faltered slightly. I'm sorry. I think there's been a misunderstanding. This is Elena, she works in, what was it, county administration? Margaret looked confused. No, dear. This is Judge Elena Hartwell, Superior Court, 14th District. I should know. I've been covering legal affairs for the Tribune for 20 years. The color drained from Marcus's face. Judge? I met his gaze steadily. Superior Court Judge Elena Hartwell, appointed 3 years ago, but Victoria said. He trailed off, clearly processing the implications. What exactly did Victoria say? I asked, though I already knew. Margaret looked between us, sensing tension. Perhaps I should. No, I said firmly. Please, stay. I'd like to hear what my sister told everyone about my career. Marcus loosened his tie slightly. She said you worked in county records, filing, administrative support. She made it sound like I was a secretary. I finished. The word hung in the air like an accusation. Margaret's eyes widened with understanding. Oh my, she whispered. I could see Victoria across the room, still holding court with a group of Marcus's friends. She was animated, gesturing expressively as she told some story that had everyone laughing. She had no idea her carefully constructed narrative was unraveling 20 feet away. Elena, Marcus said slowly, do you mind if I ask, what kind of cases do you handle? Felonies, mostly, white-collar crime, organized fraud, corruption cases. I sentenced a former city councilman to 12 years just last week. I paused. The Tribune covered it extensively, didn't they, Margaret? Margaret nodded. Front page. Judge Hartwell's reputation for tough sentencing has made her quite well known in legal circles. Marcus was staring at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Victoria never mentioned. Victoria doesn't ask about my work. I said simply. She decided long ago what my life looked like. And asking questions might have complicated that story. But surely your parents are very proud of Victoria. I interrupted. My accomplishments don't fit the family narrative as neatly. Margaret cleared her throat diplomatically. Judge Hartwell, I should mention, there's a rumor you're being considered for the state Supreme Court. Care to comment? I felt rather than saw Marcus's sharp intake of breath. I don't comment on speculation. Mrs. Donnelly, you know that. She smiled. Worth a try. Well, I should let you enjoy the party. Congratulations on your sister's engagement. After she left, Marcus and I stood in uncomfortable silence. Around us, the party continued its glittering facade, but something fundamental had shifted. Why didn't you correct her? He asked finally. During her speech, I considered the question. Would you have believed me? Or would you have assumed I was the jealous sister trying to steal her moment? He had no answer for that. Elena, Victoria's voice cut through the air as she approached, her cheeks flushed with champagne and excitement. There you are. I was just telling the Pemberton family about your little job with the county. They thought it was so sweet. Actually, Vic, Marcus interrupted. I think there might be some confusion about Elena's work. Victoria's smile flickered. Confusion? What do you mean? She's not a county clerk, Marcus said carefully. She's a judge. The word landed like a physical blow. Victoria's face went through a series of micro-expressions, confusion, disbelief, then something approaching horror. What? Superior Court Judge Elena Hartwell, I said calmly. I've held the position for 3 years. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering against the marble floor. The sound seemed to echo in the sudden quiet that had fallen around us. That's not possible, she whispered. Why? Because you decided it wasn't? People were staring now. Conversations had died as guests sensed drama unfolding. Elena's being modest, Victoria said loudly, forcing a laugh. She's probably talking about traffic court or something small like that. The Henderson embezzlement case. Margaret Donnelly's voice carried from nearby. 15-year sentence. Made national news. Victoria's face went white. The Westfield corruption trial. Someone else added. I saw it on the news. Judge Hartwell presiding. Marcus looked at Victoria with something approaching alarm. You told me she filed papers for a living. I thought. Victoria stammered, then turned on me with sudden fury. Why didn't you tell me? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. When? During the 5-minute phone calls where you talked only about yourself? Or maybe during the family dinners I stopped being invited to 3 years ago? That's not, you could have said. I tried. I said quietly, when I graduated law school, when I passed the bar, when I was appointed to the bench, I sent announcements, made calls. Do you know what Dad said when I told him about the appointment? That's nice. Honey, did you hear Victoria's getting engaged? The silence around us was deafening. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. You let me look like a fool, Victoria hissed. You did that yourself, I replied. I just stopped correcting the story you insisted on telling. Marcus was staring at Victoria like he'd never seen her before. You lied to me. About your own sister. I didn't lie, she never talks about work. And you assumed I was failure. I said, not unkindly. It was easier than admitting you'd never bothered to learn who I actually became. Victoria's tears were real now, streaming down her perfectly made-up face. Around us, guests whispered behind their hands. Phones appeared as people began Googling my name. Elena, our mother appeared suddenly, her face pale. Perhaps we should. Should what, Mom? Continue pretending I don't exist unless it's convenient for you? She recoiled as if I'd slapped her. I looked around the room, at the shocked faces, the judging stares, the family that had never seen me clearly. For a moment, I felt the familiar urge to apologize, to smooth things over, to make myself small again. Instead, I straightened my shoulders. Thank you for the invitation, Victoria. I hope you and Marcus will be very happy together. I turned to him. A word of advice? Ask questions. You might be surprised by the answers you get. I walked toward the exit with steady, measured steps, the same pace I used entering my courtroom every morning. Behind me, I could hear the buzz of conversation resuming, louder now, charged with scandal and speculation. Elena, wait. I turned to find Marcus hurrying after me. What else don't I know? He asked breathlessly. I studied his face, handsome, privileged, but not unkind. About Victoria? That's for you to discover. About me? I handed him my business card. Everything you need to know is public record. He looked down at the card. The Honorable Elena Hartwell, Superior Court Judge, 14th Judicial District. Will this affect us, the engagement? That depends, I said, on whether you can love someone you've never really known. I left him standing there, still staring at my card. Outside, the night air was cool and clean. I walked to my car slowly, savoring the quiet after the glittering chaos of the ballroom. My phone buzzed with text messages, some from Victoria, others from family members who'd suddenly remembered I existed. I deleted them without reading. Tomorrow, I would return to my courtroom, to cases that mattered, to a life I'd built entirely on my own terms. Tonight, I drove home to my quiet house with its walls lined with law books and commendations, knowing that for the first time in my life, my family had finally seen me clearly. The truth had a weight to it that no amount of champagne and crystal could match. And I was perfectly content to carry it alone. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you in next video.